Hello! Welcome to the Dad Report, a podcast for dads, by dads, about dad stuff.
Join us as we sit down and have meaningful conversations with friends, family, and coworkers.
We will talk about life, family, and so much more while working towards a goal of creating a healthy idea of what it means to be a dad.
For all the listeners who haven't had the Dad Report in like 6 weeks, there's some sipping a Dr. Pepper and another beverage ASMR.
You know, I heard that if you it tastes really good if you put in a little bit of cream, like half and half into that.
So
just Dr. Pepper.
Just into the Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the Dr. Pepper and cream soda that they've got out.
I think maybe that's what this person was trying to mirror. You know, I saw it on a reel, so it must be true.
Oh, like everything else in the world. I mean, Megan has had some success with TikTok recipes. We've had some decent food come out of that.
Yeah. We actually had one tonight that is kind of a new favorite that I found on a reel, sent to Shauna. She loved it. So yeah, man.
There you go.
you got to be ready for anything when you try one of those. But
wow, I'm just letting out all the nasty noises right now. Yeah, we have a couple of our favorites. There's some kind of there's this chicken one she does, and now I can't remember. I can physically see it. It's like a chicken with some potatoes and some cheese. I think she calls it crack chicken. That doesn't sound right. I feel like crack chicken was something else that got me sick. But whatever this chicken recipe is,
crack chicken. I don't know what it is, but I have heard the name.
Okay, well maybe that
might
is
be it.
But all I know is it's like the base recipe is good. But then as you're eating it, you're like, oh, what if we threw in like buffalo sauce? What if we threw in like garlic? What if we seasoned it? Like, it's one of those where you can build on it and add other like layers and flavors to it. So that's been good. Then there's the steak and potatoes one in the air fryer. Holy crap. Them air fryers, man, they can do a lot.
So the one that we do, and I can say we because I found it and Shauna cooked it. So
there you go. It's team effort.
Team effort.
Marriage.
We've done it a couple times, and tonight was the latest. I didn't have them tonight yet, but they're called smashed potatoes, and basically what you do is you boil the potatoes a little bit, and then you put them on like a roasting pan or whatever, cookie sheet, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they're a little bit soft, you take I think she used like a mason jar, but you can use a glass, you can use anything. And you literally just bring it down until they're about yay thin. And they're all different shapes. And, it's not, it's looks kind of weird, but then you put I think the reel called for like Parmesan cheese and garlic or whatever, but you just put it on there, whatever you like on your potato. But the cheese is good because it makes it kind of crispy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And but it's soft in the middle, and it's just it's good. And she likes it because it's easy, kind of quick.
Yeah.
And yeah, so everyone that's had them here likes them. So
well, there you go.
Yeah,
that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, and actually, the first time we tried it, Jude had a friend over, and I was thinking,
that's the test.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
He likes it, or you're ordering pizza.
We're trying something new when another kid's over. Let's see what happens. And he was like, afterwards, he told Sean, he's like, "This is the best meal I have had in a long time."
That's awesome.
So,
That's nice.
so yeah, so there you go. TikTok recipes. And when I say TikTok, of course, what I mean is I'm holding true to the meme of, where it says I don't watch videos on TikTok. I wait 2 weeks till they're no longer new and watch them on Instagram like an
That's
adult
right.
or
That's right.
whatever that is.
That's right.
So when I say TikTok,
Oh,
that's
I
what
know
I
what you mean.
mean.
I
Because
know
I'm
what you
not
mean.
I'm not on the TikTok.
Because you and
Not
I send
because
each
I hate
other
China or any political reason or anything. I just
China.
I just don't need another social media app. I'm thinking about getting rid of the ones that I got. So,
Oh, I'm
you
surprised you
know.
didn't give that up for Lent. What did you give up for Lent this year? What was your chosen vice?
So, I actually did not give something up. I added a couple things. So,
Feel like you're breaking the
um
rules here, Chad.
yeah.
It's like took the red pill at the Matrix.
Well, so technically I'm giving up sleeping in.
Okay.
But so
Don't
and I
you already
tried
get up at
this,
like
and I'm
5
sure
a.m.
this was an
anyway?
idea from someone else. I don't claim this idea. I don't claim this to be a novel idea of my own invention. But a couple years ago, I was thinking, what would be really cool is if during Lent, if I added something in, like something that I need to do, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, um, whether it's, I need to work out more or read my Bible more or whatever. So this year, what I decided to do is because I have just been sleeping in like a turd, just so much sleeping in.
Yeah.
So, what I decided to do is it's going to wake up at 5 o'clock and do something active and then something in spiritual, spend time with God, read my Bible, pray, like Devo, anything on those lines kind of counts.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I gotta tell you, um, I did it for like the first, I don't know, 5 or 6 days, and I felt better. And I went to Sean and I was like, hey, do you do I seem different? And she's like, yeah, actually, you seem like you've been in a better mood. Like, you're not like, you know, you're not like don't have a lot of anxiety, like you're not depressed, like none of that kind of stuff. You just seem better. And I was like, yeah. And then I got sick and I basically didn't do it for
That'll
the
throw
next
it off
several
for a whole
days.
week.
And
Yeah.
then so I'm getting back on the wagon now, but uh it's worked out well for me. And I was thinking about it like I really want to do this. I can be very legalistic about
Mm-hmm.
Lent. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'll do it. I'll do it religiously and we'll see how it goes. And
Yeah.
the idea was that it would be something that I would keep doing. So there you are. That's what I
There you
that's
there
that's what
you
I'm
go.
doing. What
Nice.
about yourself?
Oh, I have nothing. Nope. We're
Way to go.
yeah, I
No,
know.
I'm
I'm
kidding.
so spiritual. No, we're practicing. I mean, we're recognizing Lent at our church. No church-wide Daniel fast, nothing 11:22. We've got a devotional on YouVersion. That even that I haven't even. I mean, I think I had intentions and then just one thing after another. And what we can get in a little bit just how busy our seasons have been and some decisions that have come out of that. But yeah, I never got around to picking anything, and which granted I didn't grow up with that tradition. 11:22 was the first church to really that I attended that acknowledged Lent.
Yeah.
Um, and even that took some like, wait, y'all feel super like not with these kinds of religious things, but then here's this thing. And granted, Joby packages it so well, and the whole church,
Yeah.
the church as a whole, the way and our church does. I mean, I think our church does too. Like we went to our first. I went to my first Ash Wednesday service. Because we're Methodist and that's a thing that you do. And actually, it did not feel very religious. It felt more like a night of worship. it had a much more serious tone.
Mhm.
And almost like when you read the words, sackcloth and mourning in scripture, and not mourning as like the sun comes up, but like mourning for those
Mhm.
people out there who are like, I never read the Bible before. And they may have changed the language because we read, I used to read that in the King James, but it felt like that. Like I feel like when I read that phrase, that's how Ash Wednesday was. Where it's just this powerful, like Holy Spirit in the room, sacred ground. Like our pastor does in my opinion, one of his stronger messages that I've heard him preach, where it was like, yes, like
Okay.
okay, like it was good. It was, even though it was quick, it was like I'm feeling, and if I'm not feeling something, then people around me are. Like I could just feel a spirit on me, and it was the ash part was weird. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, like I did it. I did not wear it out of there, and I'm kind of grateful I did because then Babylon B knocked everybody who kept ash on their foreheads. Uh, it was like, yes, you did it. Now you can go take your obligatory selfie on the corner saying that you're spiritual or something.
Oh
I
goodness.
think in the moment, like in the service, it made sense. I like the symbolism. I like the way our pastor set it up. But it's also something where, like, if this is supposed to be a symbol of my own personal heart for repentance and acknowledgement of a need for the gospel, then I don't see why I would wear that out into public to then be like, look at me, look, I'm, you know, a Christian. I don't know. There's just something about that kind of. It to me, it can feel like depending on who you are and the way you carry it, it can feel interpreted as like the priest praying out loud on the street corner, who's like, Lord, thank you that I'm not one of these lowly, dirty peasants, and I've kept all your laws. So, but overall, I mean, that's yeah. So that started off our Lent season, and I actually have not practiced anything for Lent. I will say Megan started getting up at 6 a.m. throughout the week to work out. And then for her Lent, actually, she is doing, I guess you would say she added instead of took away. So Mark Batterson, who's a pastor out of Washington,
Oh
D.C.,
yeah.
he was famous for The Circle Maker. And then he wrote an additional book called Draw the Circle, which is like uh, a go and do based out of The Circle Maker. And so she's got her copy, and we did this before we got married, where we read through it together and wrote some prayers down and, like, kind of practiced this. And I need to go get my copy and probably can, keep up with her. But I know that she's been getting up in the morning, and she's been reading Draw the Circle, and she's been doing prayers based out of that. And she's been journal praying, she's doing her Bible study. And so I was having her get me up with her, and I still will. But initially it was to work on some schoolwork, which never happened. But also so I could read my Bible and just be present and just be awake before Amelia and have some of that awake time. So this morning, though, as I was recovering still from this past weekend, I read my Bible in bed. um
Yeah,
but
I've done that. Yeah.
hey, YouVersion's great. It's not my favorite. I still love reading. I prefer to have that was part of what I liked about getting up with Megan, is I would sit on the couch and have my actual physical copy out and read through it that way.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I haven't done an Ash Wednesday service in a long time.
oh yeah, man.
I feel
I
like
I
maybe.
liked it.
Yeah, it's good.
I think it's probably similar to elder led prayer. I don't know if I ever got a chance to go to elder led prayer, but if I had to imagine, it's maybe not the same as far as service content, but I think the heartbeat behind it, as you set your eyes towards Easter and towards the cross, I think that probably is the same.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, well, and elder led prayer is not like elder led prayer. And what I mean by that is it's always a little different. So
Okay.
before they've had a thing where they have some of the elders, and I'm sure they're kind of dispersed among the campuses, right? But we'll have a couple get up and they'll they'll kind of read the scripture that God put on their heart and just kind of like expand on that a little bit.
Mm,
This time they did like at least at our campus, did like a panel interview type deal
okay.
with some stuff. But it's different. I feel like sometimes they like, they'll have like a little, you know, 5-10 minute little sermonette kind of deal, and then do a couple songs, and then just kind of go back and forth. It's always something different.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, it's all focused around that theme of, hey, we're kicking this thing off. And as you know, Joby, kind of, I think you said packages it was your term. So he packages it up and like, hey, you may think you're ready to celebrate Easter. You're not ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is just a way where we prepare our hearts and
Yeah.
and minds and all that. And I like that. And I'll tell you, I think she did it for Saturated, where Gretchen wrote a Devo, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know kind of what to expect, but that one was good. Like some of them were unreal. But they were all good, but just some were, there's a couple where it was like, wow. And these so far have been hitting really well,
That's
really
awesome.
well too. So these are focused on like the miracles of Jesus.
Okay.
And there's been a couple where it's like, I never thought of that. Just some observations she has from the text. And, I think of myself as like a contemplative person. Like I like to analyze and think about things. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's been a couple where I was like, I was very pleasantly surprised, and it's great. It's good reflection and everything. So yeah, I would recommend those.
Okay.
If anyone's looking for one, and I think they're probably out there. Like I bet you could probably
Are they
find a
on
saturated one somewhere.
YouTube?
No, this
The
is so it's just text, but
Is
no,
it a
that's not
book?
true. It is audio as well.
Okay.
It's on
Might be on the app, the 1122 app.
might be on the app.
That wouldn't surprise me.
No. So it's like a specific website they set up. So basically you sign up for the email and then you click it and it takes you to
Gotcha.
coe22.com/Lent or Easter or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And um yeah, but it's good. I'm liking it. I'm not typically a Devo person. Normally what I'll do is I'll just read, like I like kind of, read through the Bible in a year or
Yeah.
whatever, just pick a section and go for it. Sometimes I'll do a Bible project thing where there's a video and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But um yeah, I don't know. I may be becoming a Devo person. Who knows?
There's times I'm kind of back and forth on it. Like right now, my buddy and I are doing two plans at the same time. One is ironically Mark Driscoll's Theology for Everybody, a study through Romans. And he's got a YouVersion plan that takes you through Romans in a whole year, so 365 days. The thing with that, though, is we've been in the same text now for like 25 days. And so I don't feel like he and we're kind of skimming or skipping through the text now, as it were. I mean, how many times can you honestly reread Romans 1? Okay, I shouldn't say that. Joby will have my neck. But it's okay. He doesn't listen to this podcast. But the commentary that Driscoll has provided has been interesting. There's moments where we're like, okay, I think you're kind of putting more virtue on Paul than you need to be, or you're lifting him higher than is necessary. But I mean, he's asking, the thing with this one is it's not asking just kind of the generic YouVersion questions where it's like, and how does this make you feel today? Like it's asking you questions. You're like, oh yeah, what kind of level and role has scripture played in my life? Or what kind of level, like, do I remember when the gospel, was alive in me, like when I was like on fire for it and could not stop talking about it, and like kind of those kind of like, and that's very Driscoll kind of punch in the teeth questions. So we've been doing that. Then on the side, because we were like, wow, I don't know if this can be the only meat we have in the morning. So we're also doing Bible Projects Torah, so the first 5 books of the Bible. I think it's the first 5. So we're in Genesis, and that's been, holy cow, that's been a lot of fun because like
I'm actually reading through that now too, actually.
Okay, the Torah plan.
No, well, no, not the Torah plan. So they
Okay.
have on their app, which is really good. They have shoot, I forget what they call it's called a journey, and so
Okay.
it takes you through the first 5 books, and you follow these different themes.
Okay.
And the great thing is they have so many resources on there. So if you come across a piece of scripture that they have a
Hmm.
podcast on, you can kind of see that, and it's all like overlaid, and it's unreal. It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm in Numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
We're
and
still
I
in
kind of
Genesis. We just got to Joseph.
okay. And I take it in chunks. Like I'll sit down for like, an hour and a half on a Saturday or something and just
Mm.
read through a whole bunch. It's not my daily thing, but yeah, I'm sure it's some of the same content that you're
Well,
going through,
we
and
just got through
it's
the
great.
desperate housewives of ancient Israel with Jacob
Mm.
and Leah. And whenever we have our sex episode, that might be a fun one to pull in where one of his wives buys him for like 12 mandrake fruits. Like it's hilarious. Like just rereading, I think for me, the biggest thing, I know we're kind of off base of fatherhood. We'll come back around to that in a second, but like rereading some of this Old Testament without the King James, like not doing it in the King's English, and then doing it without the legalism of you cannot have questions or everything is 2D, black and white. And so allowing the story to breathe, to see the sassiness in some of these characters, like Rachel and Leah being sisters and then wives of the same dude, and then watching their drama play out as they fight for his affection is like, okay, this is wild. Like, why aren't people reading their Bibles? Like, this stuff is in here.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it's an understandable language. And then yeah, like my buddy and I both are like, what? I have questions. Like, I'm not doubting God or the gospel, but it's like, okay, what does this narrative have to do in the larger scheme of scripture? And then it's also like, well, no wonder certain religions, denominations, whatever, got all backwards because without a proper, I'm going to use a fancy term here, hermeneutic of scripture.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. And I dropped out of seminary. We'll get to that in a second. Um, but like without that proper interpretation, like no wonder they're running off and believing they can have sister wives or 4, 5, 6, 8, whatever, many wives. Because like, well, it's in the Bible. I mean, Jacob did it and God didn't punish Jacob. And you're like, well, you're kind of right in a way, but also like you also see father's generational curses playing out. Like it's just fascinating. Like just rereading it and reading it with some of the emotional bandwidth I can now have with it has been like really freeing. It's also some questions where it's like, okay, this is weird, but it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
the one thing that really helped me, and the Bible Project gets into this too, is you meet a new person, and kind of the question that the people this is written to are asking is, oh, is this going to be the guy? Right? Is this going to
Yes.
be the guy that's going to get it right when Adam got it wrong?
I had
And
a
then you
buddy say that
have,
to us.
yeah, you have Abraham, you have, uh, Noah, Isaac, Jacob, they
It's the
all
search for the second Adam, and then it like it
exactly.
makes it makes sense then that by the time they get to Jesus, they're like, okay, we've done this for 1,000 years, or we keep hoping this guy's it, and then he screws up. We're done now. Like we're over it. Um, it's just, yeah, yeah. I had a buddy. We after one of our Desperate Housewives moments, I forget which one it was. Actually, no, it was after. Well, we're really off base. This episode would be long. Sorry, listeners. You can just scrub to wherever it's important for you. My buddy and I just gotten through the part where Noah falls asleep drunk in his tent, and then his youngest son goes in, sees him naked, comes back out, tells his brothers, and they walk in backwards and cover him. And then the youngest son gets cursed for it. And to the
Yeah, and you're like,
21st,
what just happened?
right, into the 21st century American perspective, you're like, but the youngest brother did an honorable thing. I mean, aside from the fact that he probably wasn't supposed to go into his tent to begin with, but like, how many times have we honestly walked in on our parent when we were little because we needed their attention and we're 3 or 4 or 5 and they can't lock their door because we might run with scissors? Like, there's this kind of like mentality, like, okay, now granted, this kid was probably fully grown, so like, still, why are you going to his tent? But you're also a familial kind of community. So if you got to tell dad something, I don't know. Like there was that. So we have after D&D, my buddy and I will sit and talk through this stuff. And one of the guys, his roommate, was at DTS for a while and now is about to transfer. He's kind of here. There was some personal stuff that happened with him. He's kind of here on like a furlough, as it were. He's kind of in between life stages, but he's about to go to Southeastern. So he feels called to be a pastor, and he's been in seminary. He studies and this dude's like fluent in the Greek, fluent in the Hebrew. And so we dropped this one on him. We are like, so why did Ham here get cursed? And he kind of took us back. He's like, well, in that culture, like with it being a shame culture, A, he shouldn't have seen him, but B, the real big deal is the fact that he talked about it. The fact that he actually even shared. And granted, the text doesn't, like, the text leaves us just enough where it could have been that Ham was trying to be honorable, or it could have been that Ham was making fun of and shaming his father by telling his brothers. Like, he could have been like, I saw dad's wiener. It's like this big, you know?
Oh, and for our listeners, real quick, just in case you're confused, DTS stands for Dancing with the Stars. Okay, keep going.
No, it stands for Dallas Theological Seminary.
Yeah.
But if they go progressive, it might be Dancing with the Stars. Oh, I'm getting in the heat today, apparently. So yes, that's anyway, that was, yes, we were allowed to ask those questions where it was like, this is weird. But that's when that buddy of ours explained to us that the like, especially in Genesis, before you get to the law, it's this constant search for who is going to be the second Adam. Is this the prophesied one? Is this the one who will strike the heel? So it's been entertaining for sure.
Yeah, that's good stuff there.
So you had a not so small weekend this past weekend.
Yeah, so we have this thing here called One Weekend, which I know you know about, and it's actually a little more subdued than it used to be, because pre-COVID the way they did it is middle school, high school together, all campuses together, come to San Pablo, have somebody, bring the word, worship, community groups, sugar, games, all kinds of stuff, right? And then you would go stay in what we call a host home, right? So different families would, don't know why, volunteer their homes for, whatever grade.
Listen,
boys,
if you're
girls,
listening and you've been a host home for a church out there, we, especially me, student pastor, appreciate you.
Yeah. And then with COVID, it went away. And then after COVID, I don't know. I'm filling in some gaps with my own opinions here. But they were like, oh, wait a minute. Actually, like, this works better when we don't do that part.
Right.
Now there were some groups that just decided, hey, let's bring all the kids over and do a big old sleepover, whatever.
Yeah.
And so some kind of did that, kind of, planned it on their own. But anyway, and then come back Saturday morning, kind of do that again. And after lunch, go out, serve somewhere, come back, kind of have, third and final session, big old like after party kind of deal.
Yeah.
Kids go, adults, leaders, clean up, and then go home and die.
And then church on Sunday.
It was
business
unbelievable. As usual. Clayton King came, his son Jacob came, and it was legit. They did had some great worship. And yeah, man, it was awesome. It was hard. It was, they had more kids they were expecting, ran out of everything, just kind of comes with the territory. But it was good, man. It was good. A lot of kids, surrendering their life to Jesus. Kids, hearing from the Lord that they're being called into ministry of some sort,
Awesome.
ministry, missions, whatever it is. And I'm really looking forward to going back tomorrow night, and just kind of unpacking some of them, because it's such a packed thing. you don't really
Mhm.
have enough time. Like you'd think, oh, you're there all weekend. We got all this time.
Nah, you gotta fill
But
it. You gotta fill that
yeah,
time.
it's very full. So I'm interested to go back and because like some kids made some major decisions, some like
Mhm.
life altering decisions.
Mm.
Um and and then there's some that kind of make that decision every time.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh
so
yeah. Get saved
I feel
7,000
like, and
times a
granted,
gram.
like I know we have to emphasize um you know gospel, salvation. Yes. Amen. All that. But, we also have to do some discipling there. And that's
Yeah.
what I'm here for. Like that's my uh that's the reason I'm serving. So I'm very excited to get in, and I also feel like you know I got to know a lot of these kids and the leaders too more, and it was great. It was really hard, really tiring, the entire thing. Um,
Now with
wanted
this
to,
weekend, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say wanted to strangle a couple along the way.
Oh,
Didn't.
yeah, that happens.
Thought that might, turn out badly. So didn't do that. Met some parents. That was, it was a good time. Like I said, it was hard. It was
Yeah.
stressful, but
Yeah.
it was good, man. It was good.
Huh. You think it's stressful on your end. Be planning it. Um,
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
but tell me, so to kind of jump into more of what our podcast does. So Jude was there because he's a student this year,
Correct.
and it's his first year, like
Yep.
sixth
Sixth
grade.
grade. Yep.
And then Shauna is also leading a group of girls,
Eighth grade.
eighth grade, and then you're there with a bunch of sixth grade boys, not
Mhm.
including Jude in your group. So
Yeah,
talk.
well, it's kind of weird. So like the groups are different because you think about it, we have like, kids from all of the campuses together. So, we were
Fair.
kind of all mingled in there. But yeah.
Gotcha.
But anyway, back to your question.
So how did that family dynamic of serving together go, not go? Was there any awkwardness? Um, I mean, I'm just kind of throwing that out there as like you're there with most of your family aside from Pierce. And shoot, I don't even know. He may have been there in the background somewhere.
No, yeah, Pish was there too. Yep.
Nice.
Well, so this is something that we do every week. Like we're all there. And luckily, um, I was able to convince Jude that, and we call them family groups.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but think small group, life group, home group, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was able to convince Jude that being in my group would probably not be a great idea.
Good.
That it'd be good for him to get to know some other adults, and you know, uh, because there may be a time where he has something come up that he wants to talk about that for whatever reason he don't want to talk about with me. And so and we got some awesome leaders. So I'm like, pick. Like it's me and two other guys who are both awesome. And Pierce is actually a co-leader with one of them. And then I've got a young guy who's a co-leader with me. And so yeah, man, it's good. Um I love I love seeing Shauna interact with the young girls. Pick an age in middle school, high school for that matter, where a girl does not need to know that she is of value, and um she doesn't need to pay any attention to these boys come sniffing around.
Right.
And
Right.
she's great with that. And she's doing great. Um Pierce, this is a stretch for him, to be honest.
Okay.
But I'm glad he's doing it. I really am. And let's be honest, in the room, he's the coolest one.
Sure.
You know, the rest of us adults, we can't,
You're all old and
we
smelly.
can't even come close. So he's, so what he says goes a long way. Like a couple of weeks ago, one of the leaders, we went out to the garden center. He brought in like, stuff to do like a little fire pit kind of deal. And so we're sitting around the fire, and which is just magical because you bring a fire, you put a bunch of males around it, and people they just start asking these like very deep questions, which, up to this point had not really happened very much. And one kid goes, "Hey, so what happens like if somebody doesn't hear about Jesus and they die?"
Mm.
And Pierce just steps in with a zinger.
Oh.
He's something along the lines of, "Well, in the Great Commission, Jesus told us to go." He's like, "So if we don't go, whose fault is that?"
Whew.
I was like, I was like,
He got that from you and
"Dang,
him sitting down reading Radical, or
dude."
whichever David Platt book that was.
Yeah, that was the one. And he, he kind of he expounded on that a little bit more, but
Sure.
it was like that was pretty intense. And they were like, I thought somebody was gonna cry, but no, they were like, okay,
Okay.
okay, yeah, yeah, I see your point. I see your point. And we
Yeah,
kind
you
of
gotta
use
hear it.
that to talk about, what God has placed us here for and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so he's paired up with another one of our leaders who's a really great dude, and who's been doing students for like 8 years or something. I think
Nice.
we're about the same age. But yeah, he's been doing students for quite a while. And uh, you know, so so yeah, that is great. And I love having Jude in there. By the way, let's see. By the time this comes out, Jude will have participated in his first rehearsal for the middle school uh, worship team, worship band.
Nice.
So,
Nice. Playing keys, singing. What's he doing?
keys, and I think eventually they want him to get into singing a little bit too, because when he auditioned, he
Uh-huh.
wasn't like mic'd up, but he was singing as he was playing.
Sure.
And I remember hearing the girl who's leading the audition going, "Dude, you got a voice," you know. Um,
That's awesome.
so that'll probably come at some point too. And I don't know how it's gonna go because I think they really liked his audition, but they have um they have a rule where they really don't want sixth graders to be like on stage.
Sure.
Um, but what I'm super stoked about is just how they're choosing to like disciple them. And even like there's kids that have auditioned that, you know, need to work on their craft, or like
Mm-hmm.
whatever instrument, singing, or whatever the instrument is. And they're not like sorry. They give them some great grace-filled feedback, give them some stuff to work on, and say, come hang out with us, come participate. And as a parent, I love it. And I sent them an email and I said, look, my kid can get lessons lots of places, but kind of what you're doing with these kids you know, is something that, you alone can do. You have um, you know, you have their attention. They're here worshiping with y'all every week. And for you to take the time to begin building relationships with these kids is awesome. And so he's excited. I'm excited. It's great. So that is happening.
That's awesome.
And I'm glad he went through with it. When he was going, we were driving to the audition. He's like, Dad, I don't think I want to do this. I'm like, are you
Eh,
nervous? He's like, yeah.
stage fright.
I was like, you got it. I was like, you remember when you tested for your black belt in Taekwondo? And this would have been like, I don't know, a couple weeks before that. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, you said the same thing. You were super nervous. And there's this girl, her name's Skylar, and she came up to him. She could tell he was nervous. She's like, hey, she's like, why are you nervous? This is just where you got to come show off. You just got to show them
That's
what you can
right.
do.
Yep.
You've already done all the work, and there's really nothing else you can do at this point. So you're just here to show what you can do. And I stole her words and said that again. And he's like, yeah, but he was still nervous. But he got up there and
Sure.
he banged it out, and
There you go.
it was great. So I'm glad he did it. And um, yeah, so we'll see. We'll see where that we'll see where that leads, but we're super excited about it. So
That's cool.
anyway,
Yeah.
so one weekend, um, that's what happened. So Justin, you also put on your own little weekend youth
Yeah.
conference thing.
Yep. So basically one weekend, or any other church's at home retreat. So basically when I started with the church, they didn't have this. They had a weird amalgamation. I don't know what the word is. Uh of retreats. And so one of the things I wanted to do was come in and kind of clean up and go, we're gonna have one retreat. We're gonna have 3 retreats a year. One at home in the winter, spring, summer camp, and then a fall retreat. Um, and so right after fall retreat, we got I came in and that was the first thing I had to get around to scheduling, get spots for was for fall retreat. And we got through that right after I started straight to work on this at home retreat. And so we ended up calling it Flow Weekend. We're the Fountain Church. So water theming. Actually, our speaker was the one who gave me the idea for the name. He called it the Flow, and we just moved it from the Flow to Flow Weekend. Um, and yeah, we I mean, it was awesome. It was very much that's a lot of planning. I could not have done it by myself. The amount of volunteers, including our other the volunteer student director out of our technically what was our second campus. Right now, we're all consolidated to one property for the moment. But I mean, he's been in student ministry for 20 plus years, so his connections for a band worked out great. The games he had, oh my gosh! I mean, we had kids. A couple of kids ate a pickle out of some feet water. Like that's the best way I know how to explain that. That was a game. That was
Wow.
real, and kids did it, and it was hilarious. Um, I brought in a ministry mentor of mine, and a close friend, practically an older brother, who's man, I was his intern like 5-6 years ago, and we just the way our relationship has grown has been cool. But and he did it for free. I mean, he came in, and we just had to get him a hotel room at the last minute. I technically did promise him some beer that I don't think I ever truly got him, but that's okay. But dude, he crushed it. He brought it. We had 37 students. The goal was 65, and that's what we kind of created our budget around. And so unfortunately, like youth pastor learning moments, right? We are we kind of blew out the budget, but what was cool was our staff got to pop in and out at different points, and I don't think they're worried about the money. Like our exec pastor who handles all the finances straight up was like, no. This weekend was awesome. Like he got to spend the entire first session with us from check-in all the way till students like left community groups back into free time. And he from the band to the hosting. I mean, he told me I should get a second career in being an MC. I just make a lot of jokes. I say a lot of stupid things into a microphone. Okay. That's what I do. I enjoy it, including this. I'm worse with students and student ministry because it's just so easy to make the dumbest comments. And so he really just loved it. And he was like, he told us in staff meeting today, he was like, it felt very well run. He was like, the expectation was set high and it worked. Like he said, it moved well, it flowed well, everything was great. And he told me the other day, because I was like, dude, I said, I already know that like we've gone well over what money came in from student registrations. He's like, that's okay. He goes, this is an investment. And the response from the weekend was even like Snowbird, which is where we go to fall retreat. Students came back and they were like, I don't know, like kind of, they didn't really gel well at that retreat, which stinks. And that year, I'm not going to lie, like I've done Snowbird 6 years. Three taking students, 3 for their student pastor conference, going back for their student pastor conference this weekend. Because one thing adults should always do is go back to camp. So I'm going back to camp. And they just kind of came back with either more questions or kind of like, I think kind of unsure of like my heart for them. And at least this is how I'm interpreting some of this, because after Flow Weekend, like, first of all, I was able to get 37 students to sign up for, I shouldn't say me. Let's be honest, the Holy Spirit did that. I pitched a vision without any social media ability. Like all I had was a graphic and what I could tell them the weekend was supposed to look like. Having been to the Walking Wisely's from North Point, the One Weekends from 1122, Lift Tour that happens at another church that I was a part of, like having been to these style of events, knowing what the vision could be, and then creating and casting that vision over and over and over and over, and then also saying, if you get 65 students signed up, you can wax my legs. Like, we did not hit 65. I still have leg hair. We are good. I was kind of hoping, not gonna lie. Like I kept praying. Man, I went to bed so many nights praying, okay, God, I really want to wake up and see 30 more registrations. Like I want to wake up and know that I'm losing leg hair. Part of me is glad it didn't happen because as we got in there and started moving chairs to grade for the space, I was like, oh, this actually it would have taken probably more bandwidth had we had more students. But it's good to know that we can grow into that. And we got the whole church, like Cass's vision, 37 students. Basically, I told him this before we prayed over dinner Saturday night. I said, thank you for taking a risk on an event that you had no idea, or at least very few of you had no idea what it looked like. Like you had no clue what was going on. Like you just knew you were coming to the church. We stayed on property. Like I got overnight chaperones, I myself included, and we slept in the church and the student building, and then would wake up and go to the main sanctuary to do our sessions and to do food. And like,
Dang.
I was just like, thank you guys for like believing enough to show up. And dude, they just like the students have walked away with just such a like. There's reports still coming in of just how much they loved it. Our middle school boys had a text feed going Sunday night where they're all like, I just feel like something's missing. I'm missing the sessions right now. I'm missing the worship. I'm missing the long community groups. Like, and that was like so cool to see. And then part of that, I think, is not just that they had fun, but like Aaron, our speaker, like the dude don't hold back. And so Saturday night, like we didn't have anybody except the gospel invitation to my knowledge. You know, and the way he kind of pitched it was more of like, hey, if it's you, you need to grab an adult, you need to grab a leader this weekend, like you need to go talk to him. I was like, okay, that was, that's typically how I leave it on a Wednesday night. Because I'm not a huge fan of the like, and if this is you, raise your hand, and then you go off the whole emotional high or whatever. Like if it's a legitimate decision to follow Jesus, you're gonna tell somebody. You should. That's just normal. There are a few moments where I've asked kids to stand up, but that's an aside. So Saturday night, Aaron's talking about how we were talking about authentic faith, and he said an authentic faith is an active faith. That's his sticky statement for the evening. And he gets fired up, he gets going. And mind you, I've known Aaron for 6-7 years. So I'm not always surprised what he says. So I wasn't tonight or that night when he tells all the students in the room, he says, hey, there are students in your community who are going to hell around you. Straight up. Just like that. And it's always made me kind of like butterfly a little bit when I hear that, because it's like nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear the hell word. Nobody wants to hear that truth. But the thing is that's the truth. And he told the students, he goes, man, we get angry over everything. He's like political issues, climate change, social justice, this, that, the other thing. And he goes, none of that matters. He goes, but you got kids going to hell next to you and you're not stirred up about it. And at the very end, he gave this altar call. And he's like, so down front here are some steps. And he goes, at some churches, these are used as altars. And he goes, tonight, I want you to think of one. He as he closed out, he has all close our eyes, bow our heads. And he said, I want you to think of one name, one person in your community who needs Jesus. And the invitation he gave us, he was like, now I want you to come to the front and you pray for that friend. You pray for that person. And dude, without hesitation, when he got done saying his little closing prayer and the band hit the stage, 98.2% of that student's body in that room, plus a couple of leaders, moved to the front of the room and kneeled at that stage. It was awesome. Great, man. It was so cool. So I'm hoping that they do live out the active faith part. I'm hoping that we can keep, I keep using that movement language. I definitely have stolen that from 1122. I don't care. I also stole the I love you, be free. But like, that's what we're supposed to be. We're not just supposed to be a stopping point. We're supposed to be a place where it's like, okay, it's youth group. Let's go and have a Jesus conversation. No, like this is not a social club. It's not a pit stop. It's not daycare. It's not babysitting. And so it's good. Yeah. Basically that was kind of what, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, where have these guys been? Chad and I have been crazy busy in our own worlds between different things our churches are doing, personal stuff, and then yeah, I've been planning an entire weekend retreat that by the end of it, I mean, when we showed it, I had a buddy who does video professionally, and he came and did it for us for free. And I mean, we showed a recap video on Sunday, and I instantly was getting emails and texts and different things. People are like, "Holy cow, I feel like I just missed out." And the entire time leading up to it, we've been telling the church, like, "Hey, this is not just a student ministry thing. Like, this is an all church opportunity." And like, I even preached the last Sunday before the retreat. We were wrapping up a series called Empowering the Next Generation. So I preached a message out of Luke 5 on tearing the roof off and, you know, creating any way possible for people, especially the next generation, to reach Jesus. And I know that moved a few people who also had emailed me and were like, "Hey, how can I help?" And I think what was cool was watching a lot of them who were like, "I would never touch a student with like a 10-foot pole, step into a room just to serve food or to give a high five or to be a nurse on call." And they're leaving the weekend with like, "That was awesome." Like, even for these adults who are like, "I would never have done this," we're like, "This was the coolest experience that we ever got to be at. This was life-changing for us. Your kids were so kind and so gracious." I had other people there who had, you know, been part of other youth groups, and like, they were like, "We've never seen a youth group bond like this." Like, these students, just the way they just got together and the energy that was vibrant. It was neat, man. It was exhausting. I'm still tired. My voice is shot because I did a lot of yelling and screaming and usual student pastor shenanigery. Not a word, but I like it.
Okay, yeah, that's bold there. Well, if I could say one thing, and I know you say like every now and then when we talk, like, "Oh, I took this thing from Joby." Here's what he says in terms of using something that someone says. He's like, "First time I quote the person, you know, Joby said."
Yeah.
Second time, I say, "Someone once said,"
Mm.
in the line. Third time, I always say that.
That's where I'm at right now. I think I've
That's
said it
from his
6
mouth.
times now. So,
So,
all right.
I guess what that means is you have a license. And plus, I mean, I think he'd be down if it works.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think he probably have a few words at the fact that we left 1122. I know there's a few things that I probably didn't. I've heard how he's talked to the student ministers there, and I respect the boldness and the audacity. And I'm also aware that I didn't quite meet that criteria, but God's got different Yeah, I think either way though, he's supportive of gospel ministry. I think he'd fall back to Philippians and that, where it's whether this person is saying it out of is preaching the gospel out of contempt to try and hurt me, or they're doing it because they truly care. Either way, I rejoice because the gospel is being preached, and that's totally Justin paraphrased of many paraphrased translations of Philippians 1, 16.
looking for a middle school guy. If you
Are they really?
they
I can't leave, dude. No, this is if I can say this boldly, this is the first church I think I've been at where I feel called to be here for at least 8 years. Like, I have that weird peace in my heart where I'm like, I can do ministry for a long time here, which is
that's great.
I've never had that. I've always come in, always been on eggshells, always nervous. Okay, what stupid thing am I going to say? Because Lord knows I'll say it. But the amount of trust that I have here, the opportunity, the fact that they looked at a weekend like this, and instead of going to a budget line and going, "Well, you really blew this out," and for them to go, "No, that was an investment in our church. That was an investment in our student ministry." That speaks loads. I'm sure there are other churches out there that do that, but like, I don't know of that many that wouldn't have still given me some kind of a slap on the hand for how like under budget we went. And that's the other thing too, is I haven't heard many critiques. The feedback I've gotten has been from like Aaron, who, again, like I said, he was our speaker. He's a friend. He's a buddy. He's also my ministry mentor. So he's also going to be like, "Okay, what 3 things would you do differently? Hey, I noticed this when you were doing this. Hey, think about this area." And none of it negative. A lot of it was just like, for next year, like, how do you make Flow 24 better, right? So it was cool. It was a neat weekend for sure. and I'm grateful it's over. I'm actually kind of excited for the I'm kind of excited to start planning for the next one. Having now gotten through one, right? Having seen some of the ins and outs, knowing what we can and not really cannot do, but basically knowing what we can do. Um, but it was fun. It was cool. I'm content. That was one of the things I took away. Like as we sat down to lunch, as Aaron and I sat down to lunch, as this tradition with us after camps together. He asked me how I felt, and I just looked at him. I said, "Actually, dude, I feel really content for all the anxiety I had going into it, for knowing I had students dropping out because of church drama, knowing that we weren't hitting 65, which is what we kind of predicated a budget on. Even if we had hit 50, we probably would have broken closer to even. Like knowing how small it was, but then knowing how these students walked away and just the overall positivity they're carrying, and even some of them just that craving for more, and not more of like hype fun and games and ooh, I had fun at camp, but like hype for like I want the spirit. Like I had kids who were going back and rewatching the sessions because we recorded them all and I put them on YouTube each night. I mean, like, dude, I was up way too late working on not that I put that much attention into it, making sure we got what we recorded posted immediately. And that was cool because that's my heart, is not to give you a super emotional Thunderdome, but definitely to create a space where the spirit grips you. And it was cool watching God work in that for sure.
That's great. And I love I think my favorite thing you said is talking about how the like the adults in your church, they kind of came and bought into it and participated and are like, you know, kind of blown away.
Mm-hmm.
And those are people who are now like, okay, I gotta
Yeah.
pay attention to this thing. And the kids notice too. They're like, oh wow, you don't have to be here. And that's one thing that they started uh doing for our services is, and it's kind of cheesy, but it seems to be making an impact where they're like all the adult leaders stand up and look around like, hey, these people are not paid to be here.
Yep.
These people are here because they care about you, and um you need to show them gratitude, in the way that you treat them and the way that you behave and the way that you pay attention.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so that's great. I love that they just kind of bought into it and that the church is behind it. And because man, like imagine the anxiety if like you're like, Justin, if you screw this up,
Oh yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, we're not paying for this.
Right. It comes out of your salary or whatever. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. No,
So
they were supported from day one. And it's been, I think next year will definitely be a lot smoother in some aspects. Because we have media now. Like I've got pictures and I've got video and some recap. Like the media team, again, all volunteers. I reached out to a lot of friends. Like if there's, I don't know how many younger people are listening to this that are feeling called to student ministry and will end up with some opportunities that I've gotten to have, but like reach out to your friend base. Like I literally had a week and a half left to go, had almost no female overnight chaperones, and I called my kindergarten friend. I've known her since kindergarten. She lived 4 to 6 hours away in Tennessee, and I had seen her post on Instagram. Was like kind of, I was like, huh. I just felt like my spirit be like, hey, call her. So I called her, and she was like, hey, let me pray about it. Talk to my husband, and she was like, all right, I'm coming. I said, okay, and she loved it. I mean, she was creating content because she's a blogger. Mercy, actually, she's been on the podcast before.
oh yeah.
And she was creating some content for her Words in the Wilderness blog, her Instagram page. And I mean, I was reading it and I was like, oh, that's straight from the sermon. Like that's straight from Aaron, straight from the session. I think some of the songs and the kids, the experience she had just like knocked down even some other walls or thoughts she had in her own life. And we got to reconnect a little bit. And it was just cool, man. Like Aaron's a friend. Our videographer was my best friend in the whole world, accountability partner. Our photographer was one of my former leaders at a different church, and he's kind of gone into it as a hobby, and he crushed it. He and his girlfriend did an awesome job, and Our sound guy I'd met him briefly at a previous event. He's like a 17-year-old sound prodigy. And I freaking just reached out to him because I was desperate and was like, dude, I can't pay you anything, but you're awesome and I'd love to have you. And he crushed it. He came out and did it for us. And like I tapped into resources I never thought I didn't think I would tap into. And I may not have to next year, but it was worth it this year because we managed to pull off. I even tapped into a former student who's now a college student, was like, dude, could you come lead some like ninth grade boys? And he's like, I'm there. And I'm like, let's go. And it's cool to even see that, like, and it wasn't even the student who I like, and I love him, but like, he wasn't who I'd have considered my Timothy. But the fact that there was enough of a relationship that the fact that I could call him and be like, bro, you still love Jesus? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, do you love students? He's like, yeah. I'm like, come on, I need you. Okay, I'm there. And he was awesome. And it was great. So,
Oh man.
it was cool. I mean, overall, I'm trying to be very careful. I want to make sure I stay humble. Like at the end of the day, this event wasn't successful because I'm the one who put it on. And at the end of it, I feel like I did very little. I'm sure I did more than I give credit for, but I also know like I feel like a lot of what I did was cast vision and vision and vision and then pull some documents together and create some registration. But then like, as far as getting us from point A to point B, there was so many other parts and pieces. And then the Holy Spirit. I mean, I think, had the Holy Spirit not been in this weekend has been a weekend. A lot of the students coming into it were calling it a lock-in, and I was like, no, this ain't lock-in. This is camp. Like we're doing camp things. I'm grateful that it was well done. I prayed the continuous years grow and also are well done, but I also hope that it's never like, oh, Justin put on. I just cast a vision, man. I just knew there was a hole here for our student ministry. I cast the vision, and it seems like the Holy Spirit's blessing it. So, yeah, that was Flow Weekend. Excited for next year.
Boom. So how many students did you say you had?
Only 37.
Dude, that is amazing. I can only imagine.
Small but mighty, bro.
Dude,
Small
that's
but mighty.
great. Well, and I just kind of imagine some of the quality time there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's gotta be great. So, so what's an average week for you, like attendance?
40 to 45 right
Oh,
now
snap.
this year.
So were these like mostly your youth group kids, or was it people bringing friends, or what was
every
the?
single student there has been in our student ministry,
Okay.
except for two. Two of them were my younger cousins. That's the other thing, is I had family from out of state. One was an older cousin who helped run the games. And then our two younger cousins came with him, and because I had been playing Minecraft with one of them and was picking up on some stuff. And I called his mom and was like, hey, I'm just, I care about him. I want him to do well. And I offered her, I was like, listen, he's welcome to come down to any camp we go to. He and his brother, they're both of age. And it was fun watching them kind of go from the social, not outcasts, but like, I'm not the face anybody knows,
Sure.
to by the end of it, I mean, raising their hands in worship. I think praying with other people, like creating relationships. And it sounds like they might even come to summer camp with us. Like I was talking with their mom and she was like, okay, thanks, let me
Boom.
know. So that was cool. But like, yeah, aside from those two nuggets, I mean, everybody else there goes to our student ministry. And so there's both like a part of me was even bummed by that. Like that just shows you how much like I had set such high expectations for this weekend, where I was like, they need to invite their friends, they need to do this thing. And like, I was so disappointed when I was like, man, why is it only our kids? But then coming out of the other side, I'm like, and that's why the Holy Spirit said for year one, like he built a foundation. And mind you, some of these kids are seniors, they're going to graduate, but I think next year we'll see the outsider come in because an insider experienced it and was like, you don't need to miss this weekend. And we'll have some of the additional perks of social media pictures and videos and
For
stuff
sure.
to share with it. But I mean, the way those kids left both gelled and then I think just challenged. I mean, just so Aaron, don't hold back. I mean, he's not cussing you out and he's showing plenty of grace, but like, it was funny. Night one, man, he comes out swinging, shares a story, walks on toes, and my photographer he goes, wow, he he just kind of comes out the gate, huh? I said, yeah, you think you have toes, then he wears boots. He just crunch. So it was good. I think they left challenged, not in a way where they're like mad, like, oh, why didn't you bring in a speaker who's gonna make us feel all, because some of these students, that's all they've experienced at camp is the hyper morality kind of inspirational, motivational speaker types.
Yeah.
Some of whom, like, I know some of these speakers, and like I think their heart's in the right place, but because of who's hosting the camp, they can't dig as deep as they want to. In like I dig, dude. That's me. Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. There's grace with it. You mix grace with it. There's also a point where like you sometimes have to tell somebody in the eyeball, hey, your friends are dying around you on a soul level. And what are you doing about it? Like, that hurts. It hurts to hear, but we have to hear it. We have to. So,
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, dude, that's great. I'm glad it went well. I honestly didn't even know what was going on, and your wife was like basically, she was on social media bragging on you. So I saw
Yeah.
that. I was like, what's this guy do? I was like, what? He's putting on
Yeah.
a whole thing.
Yep.
So
Full kit and caboodle. Production band. It was definitely not campfire. Like we tried to make it the way I pitched it to some of our teams and volunteers. I said, hey, I know it's a small number of students. I even told the band this. I was like, I know that you guys have probably played for much larger. I said, there's only like 30 kids out there. I said, but if you can do anything for me, I mean, treat it as if there's like 300. Like, you take what's small, make it feel huge, and then you grow into it. And mind you, all of that was a gamble, me saying that, because I've never been a part of going from small to huge, but I also believe in it. Like, I believe if you kind of, set up the foundation correctly, cast a vision, and then pull people into the vision, you can do it. So it was good, man. It was good. We made it feel huge. We made sure it felt different than a Wednesday night. And yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
sweet. So, oh hey Justin.
Mm,
Um, dang it.
you had
Never
a dad
mind.
joke and you forgot it, didn't you?
I did. I forgot a word. And it's just not gonna work.
That's funny. I do have one other life-ish update.
Oh, it came to me. Here we
Oh,
go.
here we
What
go.
do you call a disrespecting bear?
A disrespecting bear? Unbearable.
Panda.
Panda. I guess I I don't know. Is that funny? Is that like supposed to hear like her name?
No, like panda, but duh, like
Because it's respectful.
just,
Sorry.
you're just supposed to laugh.
I'm just supposed to laugh. Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared. I actually heard that from someone at work today.
Well, it stinks,
So
Chad. It's a stinky joke. Just like bear
mm,
scat.
it is. Okay, so you have another life update.
Yeah. I chatted you brief on the phone about it this morning. So I actually submitted a intent of withdrawal form, which has been approved as of uh this afternoon from school. So I am no longer going to be mastering divinity, if we remember all the way back to season 2, episode 1, with
That's right.
Robin T. Jennings. I think it was Robin.
Mm-hmm. That's his
Um,
name. Yeah.
yeah, and this kind of falls more on some of the dad stuff. So I've been behind on classwork for 3 weeks. I was submitting an assignment late every week by a full week. Then a second class started, planning flow weekend. There was that one week where it was like knew I had school assignments to do. I think we had Ash Wednesday was a week out from flow weekend. was preparing a message to preach on Sunday. We've got student ministry now on Sunday mornings. Plus, I have to lead and teach a confirmation class, or partly help lead and teach confirmation class Sunday afternoons. And dude, I've just been, and then on top of that, married with child. And I hate failing to begin with. So I've been fighting a lot of feelings of like, wow, I'm a disappointment. Wow, I'm a failure. But I guess it was a couple weeks ago. It was a Friday. I don't know how it's been down in Jacksonville, but up here it has been nice. The weather has been like 75, light breeze, very comfy, way too comfy for early March. Let's just be honest. Georgia typically gets one nice freeze and snow in early March, and it's been way too warm. But I took Amelia outside because I was like, I refuse to let her be the TV kid. I really don't want to try and put her on the ground, and I feel bad because I'm able to do that. Like, Megan has to work with her at home, and she can't just like neglect it. I was choosing to neglect school to spend time with Amelia. And like, I also didn't know how to get started. Like, I was like, I don't even know how to begin working with her awake. And then when she's at nap time, I'm trying to clean up and catch up on some other things. House has projects. But dude, I took her outside, and I was like looking in her eyes, just watching her color and love nature, and like just be 22 months or whatever. And I was like, I just want to be dad. Like, I don't want to have the constant anxiety of, oh, you have an assignment due. When are you going to find the time? I want to spend time with Megan at night or in the morning. Without that, you have an assignment due. I kind of lost some of the drive for it. I was learning some things, like the readings were cool, but if we're being honest, I never used any of it. Even though when I said hermeneutic, I have known the word hermeneutic well before seminary. All right. I've known the word exegesis and soteriology and eschatology, all these words that to the layperson mean nothing anyway. And so that whole like tools in a tool bag thing, I realized like when I use a Greek word in a sermon, it's from blueletterbible.com, because I've known that tool and resource since I was 12 when my youth pastor mentioned it growing up. Not because I'm fluent in Greek or took a Greek tools class. And so I got to this point where I'm just like, man, I really don't need seminary, and I don't know where I'm going other than I know it begins an access way to grant me an official title of pastor, because I'm one of those weirdos who's really big on titles. Part of it's being the perfectionist. Like, I'll feel like I'm not qualified to have it if I don't have also the schooling that's supposed to go with it. And some of that's just our denomination that we're in, and we're also not going to potentially be in that forever. Like, whether it's the church leaves or, in 8, 10, 12, 13, 15, 20 years, I leave. I don't know what that picture looks like. You don't have to have one to plant a church. Levi Lusko planted a massive church out west. He doesn't have a seminary degree. Joby's seminary degree is worthless because he went to progressive school that no longer exists. Love you, Joby. Just kidding. Though he also says the same thing.
He would probably agree with you, yeah.
Yeah. Based on those, and I only say that based on the stories that Joby has shared from the pulpit about his seminary professors. So, and I sat down, and so I've been thinking about this for a minute, and I pulled Megan aside and was like, hey, I think I'm gonna drop. I think I'm gonna pull out. And she was fine. I never felt like she was super supportive. Not that she wasn't unsupportive, but like, I don't know if she really cared that I was in school, other than, eventually we got to pay those loans back. But then, like, I even pulled aside like my pastor and was like, hey, is there any reason why I should stay or need to stay? And he honestly was like, he put the pastor hat on and was talking about the future of the church. And he was like, really, there are ways for you to grow and opportunities here outside of having seminary. You don't need it. The kind of the way they have a model and a structure, actually not being ordained in the Methodist church actually protects me as far as being on staff, because I won't be in the itinerant system. If I'm in the itinerant system, they can pull and move and whatever at any given notice, and that's aggravating. Again, we may not be with them forever, but that's aside the point. But then, as we grow and launch campuses and stuff, my role as student ministry director, I probably would move up to more of a Stephen Perry position for those who know him and what he kind of oversees and oversight. I don't know for sure. Obviously, I have to make sure I maintain positive work ethic and prove myself. There's definitely like my pastor is definitely that way. He doesn't just give handouts. But again, I have a lot of trust and they have been very gracious. And so, he kind of did that from the pastoral side. Then he went from the personal side and he was like, honestly, man, it sounds like that's the right move. He goes, one of my biggest, and I mentioned some of the failure disappointment stuff. And he goes, I don't think you're quitting. I think it's definitely a pause, or you're saying no to something to say yes to something else. In this case, being family. He mentioned that from his own experience. He said he doesn't have many regrets, but one of his is his oldest son was a newborn to about 2 when they first planted the church, and he said because of how busy they were planting, he doesn't have many memories of that age. So got through flow weekend and I officially put it in yesterday. There was a moment there where there's a small, I say small, it's like $1,500, but I mean, that's small in the grand scheme of a lot of things. Financial kind of stipulation that we'll have to eventually end up paying because I withdrew. So there's a moment where I was like, man, I'll just try and grind. I'll just try and knock it out. I mean, I sat down to try and type a paper to catch up and I could not get words on a piece of paper that made sense, that flowed. I had no drive, no desire, no creativity, no like it just feels like it's no longer that's weird. It's not you. Kind of me. I don't know if that makes sense. I does sound kind of like quitting language, I guess, in a sense. So and it kind of threw me for a little bit of an anxiety attack yesterday that because I knew, money's a big deal, especially to my wife. But we ended up, she seems to be okay. But yeah, so I've officially withdrawn from seminary.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that when I heard it, I think this is probably an Andy Stanleyism, but when I heard it for the first time, kind of took some weight off of some things. Is like the whole concept of choosing to put something down for a season, knowing that it doesn't necessarily have to be forever.
Yeah.
Really, that really helped me. Because I mean, think about it. Who knows? A couple years, she's gonna be in school.
Yeah.
And you'll, you're in a you're in uh you're in a great spot right now where you can, um be involved and and all that with her. And so uh I would I think you're probably in a good spot, and who knows, maybe you can pick it back up or maybe not. Maybe you'll maybe what your pastor's saying is right on. So it sounds like you're really like in a sweet spot in your role right now. Like you're doing stuff that they're not used to. You're growing the student ministry and trying new things, and you've got supportive congregants and staff, and I mean that seems to what you're doing there seems to be working. So
I hope so.
yeah, man, I'm for it.
I appreciate it. I figured I would share because I know we shared starting school on here.
I mean, it's the only parent related thing that we talked about, really. So
pretty much all night. I know I already got through an hour and a half episode just to get to this. But I mean, ultimately, that's why I did, I think, was family, because I just that desire to be daddy without something else constantly nagging at my mind.
Yeah.
It was just, it was just so like overpowering. And I'm grateful. I mean, that now means like on my Fridays, like I can feel a little less, there's still gonna be Fridays where I'm a bum and we watch TV all day, but I'm trying to get her outside. Like yesterday I did stay home because we had a whole weekend, right? So I'm gonna take a day off and try and catch up. But we went to the park, got ice cream, like I just want to be able to do those things unhindered. I know Megan does too. I know she works full time, so that stinks. Um, but like the fact that in this moment in this season, I at least had the opportunity to have Fridays for the most part with her without any other obligations. That's a big deal, and I don't want to lose that. Like, because I know creating a relationship with Amelia now, even as young as she is gonna carry such huge like echoing effects well into her teenage, even adult years. So
Yeah. I mean, I know we've talked about this a little bit, but especially this weekend, just observing like kids that um they just have a major attitude,
mm,
and I'm like, why, why you got to be doing this? And I like having some critical thoughts, and then I see like, you know, kids been gone all weekend, and you're not even gonna come to the building to pick them up,
mm,
or you know, parents that are just looking for any opportunity to kind of disengage, just pull away. And it's become a thing where when I see when I meet a new kid who's really just acting out, you know, me attention, I'm like, oh, you have a parent that's not engaged. And I know not everybody can take Fridays off like you do, and on a random day take your kid out for ice cream. Like I get that, but we just need to do the best we can, and our kids need to see us making an effort to spend time with them, to get on their level. And at each age, that's different. And each home, it's different.
yeah,
Like the way I do it isn't necessarily going to work for somebody else. You know, they gotta, they gotta raise their kid in the way they should go, right? So, but yeah, that's one thing that just kind of tugs at my heartstrings a little bit when I see that. And I'm just like, if you only knew like the reason, you know, that teacher sent a nasty letter home because your kid's like flicking a booger on the wall or passing notes or,
right.
making a paper football or whatever they do now. Like it's just an
Not that.
attention grab. That's all. That's
Yeah,
all it is because they're not getting it. And
yeah.
what's the whole thing? Like if they don't get it at home, they're gonna get it from somewhere.
Oh, they'll get it. Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
and I see I can pick it out now. It's like, oh, and I mean, it could be like a parent's passed away or,
Yeah,
divorce or
there's
whatever, but
absolutely.
I can just I can pick it out and it's sad. So, um dude, you're not gonna hear me giving you crap because you chose to prioritize your family. So, um
I
I
appreciate
say I say go for it.
it. Well, it's in writing now. It's done. No, I don't think anybody's giving me crap. That's just one of those things. Like that's a personal. That's a personal battle.
Yeah.
Is that desire to always achieve, not have to stop something that I've started, and especially then, of course, I'm making that decision. I mean, I kind of already made it before we even got to the weekend, but I was like, let me get through this weekend, and then I'll submit all the, call the school, do all that kind of crap. And so
Yeah.
of course you come down off, you hit this like, wow, look at what God did. And that just like that's sometimes when the enemy just turns around and it's just like, and let me whisper some stuff in your ears because, you know, that's what he do. So
Yeah.
thankfully survived yesterday. There's just there was like a good hour there where it was like, I my panic attacks don't look like the people who have like straight up heart attacks. I'm not like Ted Lasso who kind of blacks out. Mine is just like the constant running thoughts that typically involve a little bit of like suicidal ideation or thoughts. There was
Mhm.
a good, which is so funny. Like I was texting a couple of friends who, one of whom is my best friend and he deserves to know. And it's just like, I know it's trivial. Like, I know it's stupid to be like over school, over a master's degree. Like, those are the optional degrees in most fields. bachelor's usually required. I highly recommend most people, if you know you're not going to be doing a trade school route, like go get a bachelor's, figure out what you're doing. But like the master's degrees, let's be honest, there's very few fields where that's going to be highly required. That can't also be like substituted for massive loads of experience. Like
Yep.
if I stay in this position, like I said, like I feel called kind of for 8 years, and I'd be interested to see if that's more than just like a I feel, and if that's really just kind of God being like, hey, you're doing 8 years here, get ready, buckle up, like you're going to be in the field. But like I know that if I were to be in it that long, there are other churches at a North Point style of level or an 1122, a Passion City, whatever, who wouldn't necessarily need the MDiv and would just be like, yeah, you've been doing it for so long, you've kind of learned everything honestly by, being put into the pot. You know, you didn't have to have a book teach you how to counsel somebody. You actually walked with people and counseled them. Different things like that. So, but yeah, it was just a bad. I mean, it was kind of a dark moment, but we got through it, and I'm grateful. I'm excited to see. Hopefully, I actually experience some peace. I feel at peace right now, but hopefully, like that means I also go, okay, now that I've done this, now that I've said I'm doing this to relieve some anxiety, hopefully it means I actually take steps to engage with my wife in the areas she's requesting, actually spend time with Amelia on the floor with her crayons, which I'm trying to do. There are some days though where you're just like, all right, toddler, all right, listen, kid, like we need 30 minutes of Bluey and then we can go figure out your next steps. But yeah, I just hopefully I honor even myself in the way I made this decision. But I appreciate the support. And yeah, I don't think many people are gonna fault me. The one professor, and it's hilarious. I don't think I've ever had a professor email as much as he did. But he'd email every couple of weeks when I hadn't turned anything in. It was like, hey, how's life going? Hey, just checking on progress. And so I replied to him yesterday and was like, and at first it was, hey, I'm gonna attempt to grind through. Here's what was going on. And then I followed up to his response to that email late last night. And I said, actually, we went ahead. I kind of laid out some stuff and was like, I said, it's nothing on you, nothing personal. I actually enjoyed your class. But we're actually going to go to withdraw. And even his response, he was like, hey, he said, I think he said something effective like, I respect that. I hope, you were a good student. I hope, you kind of get what I guess you're looking for or something like that. But even his response wasn't this professor. Like some professors I feel like are, oh, you're a quitter. You're just, you couldn't hack it, so you're out. And even he was like, hey, God be with you kind of deal. So yeah. It's the only dad thing we talked about all night. People have to listen for an hour and 40 minutes. So exciting.
So I want to cheer you up with a joke, and I believe this is a funny one, and you may want to cut it out, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
Because at this rate, I'm just going to leave stuff in this podcast.
It is, but in a way that you're not.
Is it going to ruin? Let me ask you this: is it going to ruin your witness with your middle school boys if they were to find this podcast? Wow, you just got pastored.
No. Okay,
you're good.
So if a jockey wears jockey shorts and a basketball player wears basketball shorts, what kind of shorts does the president wear?
Okay, I saw this joke and I couldn't figure it out. It would be president shorts, right?
Depends.
Is it because Joe Biden's old? Dude, I don't get it.
It's a play on the word depends, right? So depends could be like one thing or another, but also depends, like adult diapers.
Well, I knew the adult diapers, which is why I thought Joe Biden.
No, so I saw this on social media, and the guy who posted it, he had I guess a lot of people come at him like, oh, I don't respect you. He's like, look, the guy before was old too. And the guy before that was old too. Like, this is a joke. This is comedy. Like, let it go. This was not a political statement. Don't make it into one. So Justin, I don't care. That was funny.
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't get it the first time when I saw it on social media, and even though I knew that it was adult diapers, I just I don't know. That's sad that I'm struggling with the dad jokes tonight. I'm sorry, Chad.
I'll try harder.
Hey, we got plenty more episodes. Maybe next week we should have the sex conversation and see how many innuendo dad jokes we can sneak in there.
Let's do it, man. We just came off like a whole relationship
There you go.
sex dating series with students.
I preached through it in February. I taught on singleness and dating in one, sex, and then guardrails. So it's fresh-ish.
Yeah, we did the whole thing. We did like gender identity, we did dating, we did sex, we did the whole dadgum deal. And it was good. It was good. Yeah. I was surprised
My wife is home.
in certain ways, but it went well. So yeah, I'm for it, man.
Dope.
I think I'm around next week. So Justin, it feels good to be back. We've been on hiatus for a little bit, and I think tonight people heard some of the stuff we've been up to, and it's good to see your face over Zoom. Not nearly as good as in person.
We'll get back down there eventually. Y'all come visit me.
Yeah, I need to.
We have a house now,
That you do. Yeah, we know people up there too. So yeah, not really any excuses. So, and I love going and staying north of Atlanta, up in like LJ, Blue Ridge, like that whole area is great. We're
love
it
like
up
an hour
there,
to
man.
2 hours away from there, but we are still north. We're north of the actual city of Atlanta. So
Okay. Yeah, we need to do that.
Well, Chad, it's good seeing you again. It's good talking with you for way too long for our listeners. I hope they stuck it out. Kevin, we know you're listening. We love you, buddy. Thanks for hanging out with us today. And I think with that, man, this dad report's closed.
Peace out. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can support us by sharing the show with your friends and family. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
Want more of The Dad Report? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and even join the community over on Discord. Don't forget to send us your dad jokes for a chance to be featured on the show.
Remember the words of Billy Graham about fatherhood. A good father is one of the most unsung, unpraised, unnoticed, and yet one of the most valuable assets in our society.
So if you are a dad, we're cheering you on. If you have a dad, be kind to him. And if you know a dad, tell him about our podcast.